Let me take you to Dilley, Texas. If you've never heard of it, I understand. It's a very small South Texas town that sits alongside Interstate 35. It's about halfway between San Antonio and the border town of Laredo. The community's roots go back to the 1860s. Dilley grew up along the Great Northern Railroad that connected San Antonio to Mexico by the 1880s. It's been a site for oil exploration and commercial shipping. They ship peanuts from there, produce and livestock. Dilley, Texas is home to about 4,000 people, about 3,500 people, which again is why you may not have heard of it. It once proclaimed itself the watermelon capital of Texas, and the town's enthusiastic motto is, to this day, a slice of the good life. But today, right now, being in Dilley is anything but the good life for hundreds of people who are being held there by the federal government, because the town is also home to the Dilley Immigration Processing Center, which is just one of many immigration centers across the country. But what makes it stand out is that it's one of the few that house entire families. Families. We're talking about children along with their parents. They're sent to Dilley from all over the country and locked up. ProPublica reports that as of earlier this month, more than 750 families were being housed there, nearly half of which included children. Since the start of the Trump second administration, the number of children in ICE detention has skyrocketed, increasing sixfold. The Marshall Project analyzed data obtained by the Deportation Data Project and found ICE to be holding around 170 children on an average day in the Trump administration. The Marshall Project's analysis also found that on some days, ICE held 400 or more children. And that data only runs through mid-October of last year, meaning it doesn't include the recent surge in arrests and enforcement operations in Minnesota. ProPublica received letters in mid-January from several children who were being held at Dilley. All but two of them had been living in the United States when they were detained. In fact, in their own words and drawings, they express how much they miss simple comforts of home and the pain of feeling confined. They talk about missing their friends and their teachers, about falling behind in school, about not always being able to see a doctor when they're sick. And some of them say they're sick a lot. More than anything, they share how scared they are about what the future may hold. Here's a picture. It's drawn by a 5-year-old from Venezuela who had recently crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. At the top, the child titled the picture, Mi Familia, my family. 14-year-old Ariana from Honduras, who had been living in Hicksville, New York, and has been in the United States for 7 years, had already been detained for 45 days when she wrote her letter. Ariana, who's since been released along with her mother, was detained after appearing for a regular check-in at an ICE office. While detained, Ariana was separated from younger siblings for the first time in her life. She wrote, quote, "I've never felt so much fear to go to a place as I feel here. Every time I remind myself that once I go back to Honduras, a lot of dangerous things could happen to my mom. And my younger siblings haven't been able to see their mom in more than a month. They're very young, and you need both of your parents when you're growing up. Since I got to the center, all you will feel is sadness, and mostly depression." Another 14-year-old, Gabby from Colombia, had been living in Houston, Texas. She'd been detained for 20 days when she wrote the following, quote, "The workers treat the residents inhumanely, verbally, and I don't want to imagine how they would act if they were unsupervised. I made friends here, and they told me how they've been here for 7 months, and I get really surprised because I can't imagine how bad and sad and stressed being here." Ender, a 12-year-old girl from Venezuela who was living in Austin, Texas, described spending more than 60 days in detention. "They told me I could only be here 21 days, but I've already spent more than 60 days waking up, eating the same repetitive meals, going outside, and that the majority of guards never pay attention to people. Eating dinner always the same as the day before, seeing people cry every day for the same reasons, trying to sleep in that horrible, uncomfortable bed, going to the doctor, and the only thing they tell you is drink more water. And the worst thing is that it seems like the water is what makes people sick here. Going to wait for the bad answers from the judges, hearing the bad news from people who no longer have hope, having to share a room with a minimum 3 families, and all so they send us back to our countries." In a statement to ProPublica, the Department of Homeland Security said all detainees at Dilley are, quote, "being provided with proper medical care." The agency declined to answer questions about specific detainees, but said all are, quote, "provided with 3 meals a day, clean water, clothing, bedding, showers, soap, and toiletries," adding that, quote, "certified dietitians evaluate their meals." DHS also said, quote, "children have access to teachers, classrooms, and curriculum booklets for math, reading, and spelling," and that detained parents are given the option to have their children deported with them or to place their kids with a caregiver. That's life for this segment of Dilley, Texas's population. It's a place that sits at an inflection point in Trump's deportation program. You may recall this photo of 5-year-old Liam in a Spider-Man backpack and a bunny hat when he was detained by ICE agents in Minnesota. Liam and his father, who have since been released, were detained in Minneapolis and then quickly transferred to Dilley. I mention Liam because there's a reason that father and son living in Minneapolis end up being detained in Dilley, Texas. As Ian Millhiser, Vox's senior correspondent, explained this week, the Trump administration has developed a practice of taking people arrested in Minnesota and other places and moving them to Texas, where their lawsuits seeking release are less likely to succeed because they will be heard by the largely Trump-aligned Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And this is of crucial importance at a time when Trump's masked immigration forces are roaming American streets, occupying American cities, and hauling people away, a huge number of whom are likely being held illegally. ProPublica has been tracking the number of cases filed by people who claim that they are being detained illegally. The numbers are shocking. According to ProPublica's count, immigrants filed more of the cases in the first 13 months of the new Trump administration than in the past 3 presidential administrations combined, including Donald Trump's own first term. Take a look at this graph. On the bottom, you see the number of legal detention challenges across the last administrations, fairly consistent. On the right, all the way on the right, almost looks like it's not on the screen, that's just the last year of Trump's presidency. Those cases have skyrocketed. It's a crisis you can see boiling over in ProPublica's data. As you can see here, detentions rising every week since January of last year, rising significantly starting in September as Donald Trump sent federal troops into American cities. So the Trump administration is locking up a record number of immigrants and sending them quickly to a state where their cases will be heard by the Fifth Circuit federal court that's shown itself to be agreeable to Donald Trump's deeply controversial immigration policies. Joining me now is the author of the important piece that I